Hey everyone, and welcome back to Pandora, the Eternal War. This is video 24. I'm really glad to have you here again as we dive deeper into the story. I hope you enjoy this part as much as I enjoyed creating it. Have fun listening.
I see the world through shattered eyes, a twisted symphony where death just lies. Power rules, but it's built on lies. The strong are feared, the weak despised. I am chaos, I am free. The world doesn't see what lies beneath me. No need for masks or shields to hide. I take what's mine, I will not abide. In the dark, I spread my wings. Black as night, hear the chaos sing. A force untamed, a soul unbound. Watch me fly, leaving ruin on the ground. Stuck in the sky, a storm in my wake. The world's not my own, but it's mine to break. I bend the rules, make them all align. I steal their power, the world is mine. A hero knows something else. I take what I want from the deepest hell. Chaos runs through my
The Hero Association was in turmoil. Voices overlapped and clashed in the war room as members of the Inner Council, politicians, generals, and legendary heroes shouted over one another, demanding answers. The primary question hung over them like a specter. What in the world had caused the enemy to retreat? But no answer came. While they debated, holographic screens projected damage reports and casualty numbers like a silent chorus of tragedy. Cities burned, hope dwindled. And worst of all, chaos had not just struck the battlefields. It had seeped into the hearts of the cities themselves. The people, disillusioned by the heroes who had once symbolized salvation, began to form their own militias for survival. Crime surged, looting became commonplace. Gangs formed in the power vacuum, taking territory street by street. It was a nightmare for the heroes, who struggled to regain control in a world that no longer trusted them. A blood-red eclipse had risen above the horizon, drenching the world in a crimson hue. It was as if the sky itself had been bathed in blood. Most failed to grasp the significance of this celestial omen, but those who had seen history repeat itself, who had studied ancient eras of change, felt it deep in their bones. This was the beginning of a new age, that eerie, unshakable sensation, like standing at the precipice of a historical event, hung heavy in the air. Dr. Walter, a department head within the association, and even the director of Helios Academy, among a few others, could feel it. The world had begun to shift. Something unseen had taken shape, and though no one could yet name it, the world itself was crying out in warning. Screams echoed down silent streets. Civilians, believing the night's battles had ended, attempted to leave their homes. But the daylight proved no safer than the dark. The eclipse's red glow still blazed across the heavens like a curse, and it scorched anyone foolish enough to stand beneath it for too long. As if this weren't already a nightmare, communication with the Luna continent was abruptly lost. At exactly 12:30 p.m., the first mass prison break was recorded. Over 400 criminals, ranging from petty thieves to killers, rapists, war deserters, and disgraced heroes, escaped into the crumbling world. Some died during the chaos of their escape, but many did not, and with every hour, the chaos only intensified. By 4:22 p.m., the Hero Association already regretted their desperate decision to reassign personnel from the prisons to protect key cities. At 4:23 p.m., an explosion tore through the reinforced wall of the Sickle Moon Maximum Security Prison. A dense cloud of dust and smoke filled the air, and from within it, a figure emerged. She stood at around 1.80 meters, her presence immediately commanding attention. Her violet eyes gleamed like twin stars beneath silver-white hair that whipped in the wind. Her build was lean, athletic, and provocative, her outfit revealing sharply defined abdominal muscles. But it wasn't her appearance that froze the guards in place.
It was the aura. Even though she stood loosely, casually, her presence radiated something that made every instinct scream wrong. Blood was splattered across her pale skin like war paint, and the paranormal energy emanating from her didn't belong to a single power. No, this was something else. Something impossible. More than 10 distinct signatures of superpowers swirled around her like a violent storm. The guards might have accepted it if it had been 2, maybe 3. Even 4. But this wasn't supposed to be possible. "Hello," she said, her voice smooth and chilling. "I've come to recruit a few of your inmates. And if I'm in a good mood, I might even let a few of you live, if you seem useful. A cold shiver ran through the guards. They had never encountered anything like her. Pale skin, fangs, pointed ears. The truth dawned on them, heavy and horrifying. She was a vampire. And not just any vampire. A vampire with multiple superpowers. Something that should not exist. Her bloodlust radiated like poison, paralyzing them. Even raising their weapons felt futile. When the first soldier fired, an act of desperation rather than courage, she vanished from sight without a trace. Behind them, her voice whispered like a lullaby. Your heart is just as beautiful as I imagined. When the guards turned, one of their own was already on the ground. And in her hand, the vampire held a still beating heart. As the vampire gazes at the heart in her hand, she feels nothing. No thrill, no satisfaction. Just a hollow, fleeting sense of routine. Around her, the humans begin to notice. Eyes widen. Fingers tense around triggers. Gunfire cracks through the air. Some bullets miss, others dissolve into nothingness inches before reaching her. She casually tosses the heart aside like discarded trash, her attention now fully fixed on the people firing at her. A thunderous boom echoes through the air as she pushes off the ground, leaving behind only a cloud of dust swirling in the courtyard of the Crescent Moon prison. The guards blink, just once, and they begin to fall, one after another. One man, bearer of AD rank Arcanus known as Explosive Saliva, doesn't even get the chance to react. In the blink of an eye, he's reduced to a gentle red mist. Everything behind him is blown into chaos by the force of Astrali's blow, kicking up a massive plume of dust from the sandy ground. 10 guards had charged out of the facility the moment the intruder alarm blared. Now, only 3 remain standing. We surrender, the 3 women shout in near unison, terror evident in their voices. Sorry, says the vampire's voice behind them, unhurried and cold, that was a little too slow. She throws the heart aside once more, turning as the 3rd soldier collapses to the floor. Her silvery white hair glistens under the crimson light of the eclipse, and her deep, full-blooded eyes gleam with intelligence and chilling indifference. For the 2 remaining guards, there's only one thought echoing in their minds. Don't make this monster angry. All their questions can wait, if they live long enough to ask them. Standing there, the vampire's pointed ears twitch slightly. She raises her hand to her mouth, and something reddish, perhaps a tongue, or something far stranger, emerges briefly. When she lowers her hand, it's already spotless, the blood licked clean before they can even register the motion. MMH, that was some tasty blood. Blood type O, she murmurs casually, as if commenting on a fine wine. She steps toward the 2 women, her blood-stained aura thick and oppressive. It chills the very blood in their veins. Their mouths open slightly, ready to say something, anything, but no words come out. If they'd ever feared ordinary vampires before, at least those had made sense. But this creature in front of them, she defied all comprehension. They couldn't even understand the thing that might kill them. You smell delicious, she says, leaning in to inhale one of them. And you've got a lovely chest, I think you'd make a fine lover, pretty, too. Her words are unsettlingly direct. What's your name? She asks, her voice suddenly glacial. Emina, the woman manages, barely keeping herself from shuddering. Her will to survive overpowers her disgust. To her surprise, the vampire suddenly steps back, putting a small distance between them. I may be lustful, she says plainly, and I do enjoy both women and men, but I don't force people. That's not my way, but I do have a few questions before I take you with me, and I will know if you lie. With that, she turns toward the prison's main entrance, her voice echoing over her shoulder. First question, why didn't you just run? You saw the wall guards flee. You could have escaped. We thought changing sides was the smarter option, one of the sisters says hesitantly. We saw how strong you are, and well, the other adds. There's chaos out there, Mina chimes in. We don't think this prison's gonna hold much longer. I'm Alan, the second sister says quickly. We're twins. We were planning to switch to whichever side brought this place down first. The vampire walks with calm authority, arriving at the heavy steel entrance of the prison. Second question, she says plainly. Why should I trust you? You betrayed your previous employers without hesitation. The sisters exchange nervous glances, silently wondering what to say. In the end, they choose honesty. They admit that, from her point of view, their betrayal must seem damning. But they explain their motives. They simply want to be on the winning side, in this entire war between vampires and humans. It always felt pointless to them. They were never true believers. Little lie, that you don't harbor hatred for vampires. I'll let it slide, the vampire replies coolly. But that's not your fault. It's the stories you've been fed. Then she raises her fist, and with a deafening crash, smashes it into the armored steel door. The metal groans and buckles instantly. The door holds, but only barely. You can ask a question now, she says as she tears the door off its hinges like it's made of paper. But lead me to the surveillance control room first. As if it weighed nothing, she lifts the door before her, then suddenly, the massive door begins to float. It hovers in front of them, deflecting the incoming gunfire from deeper within the prison. Who are you? Alan asks cautiously. My name is Astralis, she replies. And I'm here to recruit. For the boss, I've been given full freedom. As long as I bring in some new blood, I can do it however I like. With a flick of her fingers, she sends the door hurtling forward. A scream pierces the air as the heavy steel slab smashes into a man ahead, painting the wall behind him a brutal red. Astralis twirls like a dancer in the bloodbath, unconcerned with the stares that follow her. Bullets fly around her like rain, but none seem to touch her. Even if they did, she could dodge them. Not that she needs to. Astralis dances to the song of despair and death. Next question, she says, almost cheerfully. This one's important, really important. How you answer determines whether my boss lets you wander off, or welcomes you in. She pauses dramatically. What do you think about the hero system? As she speaks, she uses the metal door like a grim instrument of death, launching it with her mind toward the remaining guards. She dashes forward, smashing the skulls of survivors with elegant brutality. A few bullets do strike her, but they bounce harmlessly off her skin. Then, a railgun hums to life. Electricity crackles in the air. The magnetic projectile launches, twice the speed of sound, and punches a hole clean through her shoulder. That actually hurt, Astralis says quietly, almost intrigued. Didn't think that was possible. The next shot never reaches her. Mina and Alan watch in awe and horror as the railgun round doesn't vanish, it bends, curving away unnaturally. Some shots strike the walls. Others hit the ceiling. None find their mark. Something's not just shielding her. It's redirecting the very laws of physics. Telekinesis really is one of the most convenient powers out there. As long as I don't use it recklessly, it's barely noticeable, never dangerous. No one even suspects I have it. Sure, I had to give up so many cooler powers for it, but honestly, it was worth it, Pandora muses to herself, hidden behind her assumed identity as Astralis. Alan, after a long moment of deep reflection, finally speaks. Greater than, we believe this world is more complicated than it seems. Heroes and villains, they're not as easy to tell apart as the news likes to pretend. Greater than, good answer, both of you, Astralis replies with a smirk, now standing over the incapacitated guards. Now, take me to the central surveillance room, or whatever you call it. Astralis has to give them credit. These two women, her unexpected allies, have an astounding level of self-control. Not once do they flinch as their betrayal is broadcast to their fellow guards. Not a trace of hesitation or guilt crosses their faces. They don't react to the shocked expressions of the men and women they once worked beside. Instead, a faint, almost cruel smile plays on their lips as they raise their weapons against their own team. Greater than, collect the weapons. Then take me to the armory next, Astralis commands sharply. Everything unfolds exactly as planned. She is led to the surveillance center, where every bit of information she desires lies within reach: dossiers, camera feeds, access logs. From here, she assesses who among the inmates might be useful, and who is utterly irrelevant. She's surprised, even impressed, by the number of individuals who possess the qualities she's searching for: unique powers, or rare psychological profiles. Recruitment begins swiftly. Her message is clear: disobedience has consequences. She doesn't chase after anyone who flees, she merely watches them disappear, indifferent. Greater than, that should be everyone the boss is interested in, Astralis says finally, clapping her hands together once with satisfaction. And then, it begins. The air behind her shatters. For a few surreal moments, it resembles a glass pane cracking apart, the world itself fracturing into glittering shards. Each splinter of reality falls into the expanding rupture, vanishing into endless darkness beyond. Within the tear, stars shimmer, colors shifting like oil on water. The surface undulates like overlapping soap bubbles, delicate yet impossibly vast. The tear stretches wider and taller, stabilizing into a rift 5 meters across and 2 meters high. Greater than, all we require from you is that you follow orders, Astralis says, her voice cool and firm. No one will starve under us. Whether you follow the rules, that's up to you, but you all understand what happens when someone breaks them. If you wish to join us, step through the rift. One by one, they obey, passing silently through the dimensional wound. Astralis answers no questions. The logistics, the briefings, the structure, she'll leave all that to her dear Camilla. She has other priorities. Only when the last of them has vanished does she let the illusion fall. The persona of Astralis melts away, revealing Pandora once more. Even the two twin women from earlier have passed through the portal. Greater than, now then, Pandora thinks, time to clean up and harvest some powers. And with that, she vanishes into motion. Faster than most could even see, she dashes through the facility, sweeping through the halls like a storm. Any powers she finds, she takes. Every escapee loses their abilities, and some lose their lives. The energy of stolen Arcanus abilities pours into her pocket dimension, over and over. She repeats the cycle, tirelessly. The task takes her about 30 minutes. Dash, absorb, return. Dash, absorb, return. Organizing those powers. That part she'll leave for later. It's tedious work, far too boring for someone like her. As Pandora's plan blossomed into action like a flower greeting a new year, the world around her fractured into chaos and ruin. The continent of Sol had not yet collapsed entirely, but its heroes and citizens were stretched to the brink. In that perfect storm, Pandora von Bloodfallen saw the fertile soil for the empire she so desperately wished to build. Amid the carnage, she found her thoughts drifting to her remaining kin. Should she reach out to the vampire houses? The question tugged at her, but she wasn't yet certain what alliance might bring. Far to the south, on the lunar continent, hell itself would be Pandora's description if she could witness the devastation there. 5 cities had already fallen, and Ariel 12 teetered on the edge of total collapse. All of it the work of a single woman, thought dead for so long, whose madness had become legend. Aisha felt no revulsion at the destruction. To the contrary, she reveled in it as she had never reveled in anything before. Being ordered around by others had been stifling. Now she delighted in the chance to play her own game. Secret weapon of the Assel clan, she wore their creed as a twisted blessing. Their self-professed holy duty was to exterminate every non-Arcanus human and forge a stronger breed of humanity from the ashes. Aisha cared little why they believed such nonsense. She simply seized the opportunity. Omega, cover our retreat. This monster is unstoppable, ordered Necron, commander of the Assel clan army. Necron was no mere general. His S-rank Arcanus, power to command, combine, and modify the dead, made him the backbone of their forces. His unassuming presence belied a lineage of practitioners who had passed this terrifying gift to their offspring for generations. Even Aisha, after all this time, still hardly understood how the clan transmitted superpowers to its children. She glanced from Necron to the greatest hero on their front lines, who was cutting through enemy ranks with unstoppable force. I can never hope to stop her, Aisha thought, heart-pounding. She'll tear me apart before I even grasp how I die. This power, I can't match it. My only chance is to run. But if I flee, Necron will find me and wrest control once more. No, I have to kill him. All or nothing. Her perception sharpened, time itself seeming to slow as she lifted her hand. She summoned a flame that was neither black nor white, but both, the destructive fire of her Arcanus, Nihility. She drew every shred of her power into a single jewel-toned orb, which then elongated into a burning arrow. She fixed her gaze upon the number 1 heroine advancing against the clan. In that instant, their eyes met, and without a word, they understood each other perfectly. Aisha recalled every lesson about the Assel clan's tyranny, searing her resolve. In the infinitesimal pause before her strike, she wondered, will his command override me, or will my arrow strike true first? In that moment of endless slow motion, she christened her attack Disintegration, a name meaningless to anyone but herself. Then the world whispered, shit. Aisha's heart clenched as her arrow hissed forward, silent in flight. But the heroine halted in her tracks, her power locking onto a far stranger betrayal. One of Necron's own reanimated beasts, an obedient monster, had turned, locking its flaming arrow on its creator. The shot collided with him in a sphere of brilliant white light so perfect it erased him and everything within its radius. All that remained was emptiness. The power was familiar. Aisha had seen it before, somewhere on the edge of memory. Yet Horizon, the mighty hero, hesitated, uncertain whether it was the shock of that unprecedented betrayal, or the sheer strangeness of what she had witnessed, that slowed her reaction. The black and gold armor of the supposed savior of humanity gleamed under the twin moons as she stood frozen. Horizon knew she could not abandon the city behind her. The battlefield still teemed with undead horrors. Reluctantly, she allowed the mysterious figure to vanish into the darkness. Then it clicked in her mind, this ability, she recognized it from the reign of the Queen of Ash and Decay. That villain had been dead for years. And yet here it was again. The odds that someone else could possess the exact same Arcanus were infinitesimal, less likely than the original Aisha surviving. But survive she must have. Horizon, miss something, a voice crackled in her ear. The greatest hero shook herself, tucking those thoughts away for later and refocusing on the task at hand. When she reported the event, the command center confirmed it. The signature matched exactly the Arcanus of the so-called Queen of Ash and Decay. And with that crisis past, they exhaled. The world turned onward, events cascading in unstoppable waves. Even the most powerful hero could not shield all of humanity from the catastrophes that beset it. Horizon longed to save everyone, but her power, X-rank 7 Arcanus, New Order, was finite. She could bend reality, weave new laws to her will, but only up to 3 absolute rules at a time. Each additional decree weakened the rest. And she could only reshape what she truly understood. A single misstep could mean life, or death. Horizon stepped through the blood-stained ground, her boots crunchy on broken bones. Hundreds of undead lay scattered across the battlefield. She moved in a steady rhythm, each sweep of her blade sending a zombie's head cracking like a ripe watermelon before the body slumped to the earth. The air smelled of iron and decay. With every fallen monster, the field grew quieter, until only the distant drip of blood and the soft moan of dying magics remained. Horizon paused by a shattered pile of bodies and closed her eyes for a moment. One zombie, stronger than the rest, had turned on Necron, the necromancer general. It had fired the blinding white sphere and erased him from existence. Why? Her single conclusion formed in her mind: that walking corpse was Aisha, the queen of ash and decay. But how had she returned from death? And when had she risen as one of the undead? The last of the lifeless bodies fell silent beneath her feet. Then she heard it, a low, mechanical thrum that grew into a roar. She looked up to see a four-rotor helicopter descending out of the red sky. Its gleaming silver frame looked more like a giant drone. Mounted beneath its wings were two humming plasma cannons and, beside them, twin miniguns that gleamed black in the dying light. The craft touched down with a gust of sand and smoke. A hatch on its side swung open, and a man in a crisp general's uniform stepped out. He surveyed the field, then met Horizon's unwavering gaze. "Thank you, Horizon," he said, his voice firm but sincere. "You've cleansed this battlefield of every last monster. The threat here is ended." He offered her his hand, standing tall amid the ruin. "The fight is over in this sector. You're welcome to return with us." Horizon looked back over the scarred earth, then at the general. She nodded once, her resolve shining in her eyes. "Lead the way," she replied, her voice steady as steel. Horizon climbed into the helicopter's cavernous cabin. The rotors whipped sand and dust into the air as she settled onto a reinforced seat. The pilot lifted off, and the city's broken skyline passed beneath them. Towers scarred by battle, streets stained with crimson, and crowds of survivors gathered like ants around the hero's path. When they landed in the heart of the city, people rushed forward. They clutched her hands, kissed her armor, and wept in gratitude. Children laughed and pointed. Citizens pressed forward, offering food, water, simple thanks. Horizon smiled, lifting a hand to reassure them. Each cheer made her heart ache with the knowledge that somewhere, someone else still suffered. She heard voices shouting, "You saved us," and "Our guardian." Yet inside, she felt restless, as if she had failed to do more. How many lives had slipped through her fingers? Every victory weighed on her like a stone. They guided her through narrow alleys toward the Hero Association's temporary command center, a steel container converted into a war room. Inside, generals and technicians crowded around holographic tables. They spoke of reinforcements, supply lines, and civilian evacuations. Overhead, the screens blinked, the Sol continent still remained cut off. No radio contact. No satellite uplink. Daylight brought the blood-red eclipse that stifled electronic signals. Waves died after a few hundred meters. At night, something else sabotaged the gear, leaving them blind. Horizon frowned. With half the world unreachable, her power could only protect so many. She quieted herself and joined the planning, her presence like a silent promise that they would hold the line. Far away, high in the mountain temple carved into living rock, the grand priest of the Assel clan slammed his fist into the stone armrest of his throne. He roared when the messenger told him Necron was gone, erased by a traitor's hand. The necromancer general who bent the dead to his will now lay unmade. Rage shook the chamber's pillars. Outside, clan warriors in scant furs marched through the icy wind as if heat rose from their veins. "Bring me Nirvana," the grand priest snarled. A ripple of air answered him. In a heartbeat, she appeared, damp as though fresh from a waterfall. Her golden eyes burned in contrast with her snow-white hair. She stood naked, untouched by shame. The priest did not flinch. He circled her, inspecting her lithe muscles and the network of scars crisscrossing her skin, badges of her endurance and training. "Your form is strong," he whispered, pride lacing his tone. "You honor our blood with every trial you survive." Nirvana bowed, silent, ready to serve her father's wrath against those who dared betray the Dark Imperium. Nirvana stood before her father's throne, the torchlight flickering against the carved stone walls of the mountain temple. She folded her arms, golden eyes narrowing. "Father," she asked, "have our spies learned anything about the child of chaos on the Sol continent?" The grand priest's jaw clenched. He pressed his palms against the cold stone armrests and shrugged. His voice rumbled like distant thunder. "No," he admitted. "Nothing. That creature remains untraced." Nirvana's hair shimmered as she stepped closer. "But didn't you once send agents to Metropolis Alpha, to the museum that holds those stuffed monsters, They were hunting for corpses our necromancers might use. The high priest nodded, his stern face betraying a flash of memory. Yes, it was a whim, our spies, curious, and there, among the exhibits, they spotted it, a second child of chaos. Nirvana's breath caught. You know anything more? He slammed a fist onto the armrest, making the throne tremble. Nothing, I know only that this other child was half human, half vampire, unlike me, half human, half elf. That fact tells us almost nothing. Nirvana pressed her lips tight. The brazier's red glow cast angry shadows across her pale cheeks. He ran a hand through his snowy hair. We do not know which arcanus that vampire wields, or whether its power was its original gift or some chaos arcanus forged later. It might steal abilities, it might invent them, it could even grant them to itself. The possibilities stretch into infinity. I have no clue. Nirvana's fist curled around an invisible dagger. She leaned forward, voice low and urgent, so this child slipped through our grasp, and now, while we fight on Sol, it lurks somewhere, armed with powers we cannot imagine. He closed his eyes. Exactly, and that uncertainty, it cuts deeper than any blade. Anna straightened, shoulders squared. Then we must find it, before it finds us. The Grand Priest watched his daughter, pride and worry warring in his gaze. Yes, we will hunt it down, for the clan, for our survival. And in that cold mountain hall, father and daughter forged a new decree, one born of fear and duty, to track the vampire child of chaos. Hours bleed into days and the world fractures under the weight of chaos. Both continents, Sol and Luna, are engulfed. Peaceful citizens and hardened fighters alike are forced into battle, turning on each other as well as on the monsters that pour from the darkness. Bunkers groan with the weight of frightened families. Some survive, many do not. Every street is a war zone, every shelter a thin line between life and death. Then, exactly 1 month, 4 days, 3 hours, and 7 minutes after the blood-red eclipse began, the sky snaps back into normal. The sickly red light vanishes as suddenly as it arrived. Shadows that had blackened the sun from every angle dissolve. In their place, a warm yellow sunlight returns, dripping across rooftops and shaking the world awake. But the eclipse leaves a terrible gift behind, raw power. Already, 25% of humanity wielded superhuman gifts, heroes, villains, monsters. Now, in the minutes and hours after the eclipse ends, another 10% awaken to new arcanus. Powers burst into being in their veins. Animals shift too. A loyal dog finds claws and fangs, a house cat glows with telepathy. Yet their hearts remain true, faithful pets even with new gifts. And still the scars of chaos run deep. Gangs and militias claim every ruined street, crime's tide rushing higher with each sunrise. In that unforgiving world, a single figure runs. She is pale and bruised, with short black hair whipping against her face. Her violet eyes burn with exhaustion and determination. This is Pandora, returning to the safest place she can find. Helios Academy. High above her, surveillance cameras lock onto her face. Instantly, an alert screams through the command network. At the helm of the Academy's security, Director Messer watches the feed. He sees Pandora stumble, battered and bleeding. Send medics, now, he orders, voice tight. Get the gates open. As rescue teams race toward the great iron doors, Pandora's legs give out. She collapses in a tangle of blood and sweat. Deep gashes streak her arms and torso. Her left arm hangs at an impossible angle. Darkness edges into her vision just as the medics reach her side. Pandora's eyes fluttered open to white sheets and the scent of antiseptic. She lay in a hospital bed at Helios Academy, her head resting on crisp linens. Outside the window, the sun gleamed yellow and warm, so ordinary it startled her more than the unfamiliar walls around her. And beside it, a smaller blue sun rose in the sky, a twin light she hadn't expected. Her mind drifted softly. She felt no pain, only the dull reminder of her broken arm, carefully splintered and bandaged. It was exactly as she had planned. I broke my own arm, she thought, sounding the words in her head. Camilla helped carve the cuts. A few clean scars on my skin. They'll fade, One day I'll find a power that heals scars like magic. In her secret monologue, she admitted the truth with cold amusement. This is my masterpiece of deception. She glanced around the room. A vase of bright flowers perched on a small table, their petals unfurling in the morning light. A stack of letters lay beside them. On the wall across from her, a calendar was pinned, the day after she arrived. She realized she'd slept through an entire day. Perfect, she thought. One day lost in recovery, and no one suspects a thing. A sudden flutter drew her gaze to the windowsill. A small bird, sleek and feathered, dropped a tiny rolled parchment at the foot of her bed. Its eyes were ink-black and intelligent. The bird tapped the scroll with its beak, then lifted one wing in a crisp salute, before darting through the open window and into the morning. Pandora's lips curved in surprise. She had never seen a bird salute. She reached for the scroll, feeling the crisp edge of parchment. This is important, she knew, even without breaking cover. But she remained pinned to the bed. If she moved, the charade would collapse. The moment she leapt up to read, every lie, every shattered bone, would shatter too. She lay still, counting the seconds. The door opened and a nurse stepped in, clipboard in hand. His eyes widened at the sight of her awake. He knelt beside the bed, alarm and relief in his voice. "Miss, you're awake. That's good." He glanced at her IV line. "I need to inform the others. You rest now." He offered a brief smile and slipped quietly from the room, leaving Pandora alone with the twin sons and the little scroll. Pandora lifted the parchment gently, hiding it beneath the covers. As the nurse's footsteps faded, her mind sharpened. The war raged on outside these walls, and she had one day of rest, one precious day to plan her next move. With the world watching two suns rise, she tucked her plan close, waiting for the moment she could truly stand.
They called it power, arcanus, a gift, a curse, a crown, a dangerous shift. The strong are feared, the weak are ghosts. A world of silence, power boasts. I learned to hide behind the steel, behind the wounds I wasn't meant to feel. My parents wore the title villain, but truth was never quite so willing. I thought the world was cruel and cold, just math and lies, just power sold. But now I see behind their fight, they feared the world would snuff my light. I was raised in fire, I was forged in pain, under watchful eyes behind the chain. They loved me more than truth could show, hid me where no trust could grow. Now I fight for dreams I own, not for crowns or shining thrones. Can't trust the mask, can't trust the gold, but I'll trust the fire in my soul. Battles built my breath and bones, every scar a stepping stone. They taught me not to chase a name, but to aim beyond the game. Heroes fall and villains rise, but both to wear the same disguise. No one's pure and no one's clean, we're all caught in the in-between. I learned too young to play their game, not to trust a face or a name, because the ones who shine too bright can cast the darkest shade of night. I was raised in fire, I was forged in pain, under watchful eyes behind the chain. They loved me more than truth could show, hid me where no trust could grow. Now I fight for dreams I own, not for crowns or shining thrones. Can't trust the mask, can't trust the gold, but I'll trust the fire in my soul. Every promise has a price, every smile hides a slice, but I've learned to walk the edge and never jump for someone's pledge. They taught me strength is not control, but knowing what I fight for whole. And I fight for me, not what they see, not their light or prophecy. I was raised in fire, I was forged in pain, under the watchful eyes behind the chain. And now I burn with purpose bright, I am the shadow a name, but in the silence I remain, the one who rises through the pain.
Thanks so much for watching Pandora, The Eternal War, video 24. If you want to keep up with the latest, you can click on the newest video I uploaded. It's right there on the left side of your screen. On the right, you'll find the full playlist in case you want to dive back into earlier episodes. And up in the center of your screen, you'll see the link to my YouTube video as well. Before you go, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think of the original songs I've created with AI? Let me know in the comments.